Thursday, August 22nd. And of course, this is the video log that takes 30,000 to a million. Today was not a record high, although yesterday it came really close. I'll show you the account in a little bit. And after I show you the account, take you through some of the action of what happened, I'm going to finally lay out the Apple bull thesis. That's tough to say. And I'm going to tell you some of the reason why I'm so overweight Apple, and I'm just having a hard time buying and trading anything else. So, all right, let's go. I'm going into the browser here. This is what the account looks like. I'm over the $64,000 mark, which is nice. Yesterday and this morning, I reached actually an all-time, I think, intraday, or almost matched an all-time intraday high. Of about, let's see what it was here. Never mind. Still got another 1,000 to go. Anyways, I thought I was close. Maybe not. So I got another 1,500 to go from all-time high, but it was a really nice day. This morning I was sitting at 64,843, but then there was a correction in the market for a little bit, and so it dipped back down. Nevertheless, I had a pretty good week. As you can see here, $2,000 up week on week, and so we'll see how tomorrow goes and whether or not I end up on the week or down on the week. Apple has lost $41 for me today, but everything else stayed pretty neutral. I think uranium was down as well. Yep, chemical down almost $100, and my options went in the opposite direction that I wanted to by $223. So that's what happened. That was kind of a big contributor to today's down day. And I think that's about it. If you want to take a look at the account real quick, this is what it looks like right now. I have about $700 of pure cash, but a lot of purchasing power waiting for me, because I can still sell my emerging market bonds to buy stock if I need to. And this is what it looks like. Total equity, this is by size. You can see how almost pretty much half of the account, well, more than half of the account is involved with Apple and options, Apple options. And then the next biggest holding is my emerging market bonds, and then we got Cameco, URA, and C-SPAN. Now C-SPAN, I mentioned last time that it was a really nice sideways trade for me. I ended up at $10, and now it's sitting at $10.54, and actually sold a call, but I didn't sell a $10 call, which would have maximized my gain. I actually sold two 12.5 calls, and I just kind of want to let it run. So if it reaches 12.5, I get to collect all that profit, and if it doesn't, I'm not going to make as much money, but in the meantime I can be collecting a dividend. It's got a $25 dividend for 200 stocks, so every quarter it pays out a dividend of $25 for those 200. Okay, so that's the account. What else do I gotta mention? Anything super interesting? I'm really impressed with realty income. Just looking at the 5-year chart, like, I'm pretty impressed with it. I really want to get back in, but it seems like it travels in waves, and then maybe I'll wait for a correction to about $58-60 before I decide to put some more money into it. But I really want to buy some more. I like that monthly dividend. I'm saving some money in a different account to buy as well, so I really like it. I really like that company. But of course, anything I'm mentioning here is not financial advice. You got to do your own research, make your own decisions, etc. And if you're confused, consult with a professional, and don't listen to random people on YouTube. Who does that? So anyway, I think it's time now that you've seen the account. It's time to lay it all on the line here. Alright, and tell you why I'm so over invested in Apple. Now, the caveat here is that I'm not actually an Apple fan. I do have the Apple phone. Alright, so I do use their phones. I never wanted the Apple phone. Some of my clients bought me a gift card, and they put together like $300 for Apple gift card for New Year's, one day, 1 year, and So I ended up going to the store and I bought myself an iPhone 4, which just added like $100 extra or whatever. And I bought an iPhone 4 when it was out. And then ever since then, it was such a big upgrade as far as quality goes from what I was using before that I didn't even want to look back. Like I'm a Windows fan, you know, I use Windows on my PC and everything, and I don't like the Apple operating system on on their computers, but on the phone, it's just it feels nice. It feels good, and so I decided to just stick with it. It was quality. It wasn't like freezing up. There was no weird like graphics or things that really bothered me about the operating system. So it's what really kept me in. And the phone itself looks kind of sleek, you know, like it's a nice piece of glass here. Mine's kind of dirty, whatever, but it's a nice piece of glass, and it just, you know, it feels nice. It feels like I can't explain it. I mean, anyway, let me just go on. So I actually wrote some things down that I want to share. So the first reason why, even though I mentioned in a previous video that Apple's losing its Halo status, and that's one of the reasons kind of how I'm more emboldened to buy into, even though it's still a very well recognized brand around the world and desired. It's losing the Halo status, but it's kind of one reason I want to still invest because it's still holding up, even though it's losing its status. The company itself is holding up operationally, and people still invest in it for the actual business, not because they're a Halo brand like a Tesla or something like that. So anyway, the first big reason I'm so overweight in Apple is because they are a great brand that anyone can operate at this point. So what I mean by everyone is that since Tim Cook stepped in, he's been more of an operational guy, right? He's not like a an inspirational force that brings the halo status to the company, like Elon Musk to Tesla, or you know Jamie Dimon to J.P. Morgan, um, or you know Bill Gates to Microsoft or something like that. So you know, Steve Jobs is gone, and they've proven that they can have a replacement and the company can operate. So at this point, it's more of a company like, let's say, Coca-Cola, where you don't even know who the CEO of Coca-Cola is, right? I mean, I bet you most of you guys have no idea, but you know who the CEO of Tesla is, right? So it doesn't matter who the CEO really is in Apple. The company is built in such a way. I mean, of course it matters. Somebody can screw it up. But what I'm saying is you can get a random, very competent person to run it, and the brand won't go under. Just like Coca-Cola has been doing it for many, many, many years. I think Apple is going to be one of those brands for many, many years ahead, until it finally has a sunset, like a company like GE or the rest of the Dow members. By the way, if you guys didn't know, every single original Dow member of the Dow Jones Industrial Average is gone out of the Dow, and new companies are in. So, but that took a long time to do. GE was the last remaining member, and now GE General Electric is gone. So that's reason number one. So that's the bullish case here, right? This is my thesis basically. So their balance sheet looks good. This is the second point, and they got a lot of cash. They got cash flow. They got a steady income. Like I was looking at it, and they do kind of, you know, they're not mind blowing figures, and they don't change that much over time. But and I do agree that a lot of the new stuff is priced in. But actually, I'll talk about the bearish case later. But so, anyways, their books look great. I mean, they have cash. They have enough cash to just run the company even if they don't get any income in for like a year. All right, so it's really they have a really solid cash position. I'm not worried about them not surviving a downturn in the economy, or globally really. So that's the second point. They're strong, money wise. Third point, they have this operating system like I mentioned earlier that just locks you in. You know, most Apple users on the phone at least, and maybe even on the PC, I don't know. when you use their operating system, you kind of just don't want to use anything else, right? I mean, I didn't want to switch from, I never want to switch from my Windows on my PC, right? I've tried, the Apple system, and it doesn't feel right. Like, I have to learn how to do everything. I already know everything on Windows. I'm just kind of locked into this world. So once you go to Apple, and the thing is with the iPhone, to switch to that operating system is really easy on the phone. Like on the computer, I think it's a little bit harder because they're so intricate. And when the computer, like, you gotta know all the ins and outs. You gotta know how to like get deep into the system and change things. Whereas on the phone, I mean, everything is just kind of, you just search through it on the settings, and that's it. You're gonna find it eventually. Um, Things are a little bit more intuitive. Like, even if you've never touched the operating system before, and I can't say the same thing for the piece for their computer operating system. But anyway, they have this tendency to lock people in there, and a lot of the users, I think, um, they don't have a very big attrition rate, right? I've read an article about it. I can't think of the figures on top of my head, but their customer retention is really, really high. So that's another point. And then fourth point is that their design name that carries a premium, right? So they can afford to sell their products at a higher price than their competitors because people want the brand. It's one of the most recognized brands around the world, just like Coca-Cola is, for example, and they can monetize that, right? People know the Apple product when they see it, when somebody else is using it. They may not know what some other phone is. They may recognize Samsung or something like that. But other than those two phones, who's going to recognize what the hell you're using, right? And the phone has become such a status piece nowadays that anyone who's anyone wants to have that as a bare minimum. While looking outward in the world, they want their device to be the latest Apple iPhone, right? So it's a design name that can carry a premium, so it's gonna have that extra margin on top. And another point I wanted to bring about when I'm talking about this is that they did have that scare, right? They did have the scare. Not maybe not this. Was it this last year when they couldn't sell enough units, like especially in China, and they had to slash prices and things like that, and people were worried that they're finally bumping up against that wall where they can't just keep raising prices. And they're right. They probably did bump up against that wall, but I don't think it's a bigger concern that people think, because people are getting richer every day, and which leads me into the next point, which is China and India. Like, people in India and China are not buying their phones not because they hate America or they hate the Apple. They love that. But the thing is, they just don't have the money. Like, a lot of people, especially where I'm from right here, where I live in Silicon Valley, right? San Jose over here, this area. Like, I don't think people grasp how much money $1,000 is for somebody in India or somebody in China. Like, maybe the elite circles is not that much money, but for the vast majority of the country, I mean, these countries all carry like a billion people plus each, and for the vast, roughly speaking, I think India is a little bit below a billion, China's above, but you know what I'm saying. So, a couple billion people, let's round it. The vast majority of these people, in India, I think like the average salary is $2,000-3,000 worth. So you're asking somebody to commit half of their salary for a phone. I mean, it's just not gonna happen. Um, you're gonna have to go pretty far up before you find, someone in India who can afford an Apple phone. I mean, many people here don't buy them because they're expensive, and they buy like secondhand and stuff like that for their kids, and even for themselves, or they'll buy older versions and things like that. I mean, asking somebody in India to do it. So, but the thing with these two countries, right, is that they're growing. I mean, the people are getting richer there. The middle class is expanding. People are getting diabetes and stuff like that. So they have enough money to buy sugar, right? To get all kinds of good stuff pumping into the system. right? So they're getting richer over there by the moment. So even though they hit the barrier now, that barrier is going to keep pushing up as people are getting wealthier in China and India. I mean, traditionally, over the centuries of civilization, China and India used to be a very, very, very dominant force economically, and they're back up. The trajectory is back up in the last 20, 30 years or so. It looks like it might be slowing down, but it's still traveling. I'm sorry, their economy and their wealth is still expanding faster than any other place, right? Um, when it comes to total amount of wealth, maybe not percentage wise, but total amount of wealth is increasing there the most right now in the world, and people are only going to be able to afford more and more and more. I mean, maybe I wanted the latest iPhone 10 years ago or something like that, or whatever it is, but I just couldn't afford it. And as people get wealthier, they'll be able to afford the things they want. I want an Aston Martin. Like, that's one of my dreams, right? Maybe when I hit a mill in this account, I'll buy one. But I can't afford it right now. I'm waiting to get wealthier and I'm working towards that goal. So one day I'll be able to buy an Austin, right? So I think the same thing is true for India and China. Like, people are getting wealthier and these units will come back, will come into circulation. People are living longer now, so they have more time to accumulate that wealth. And with the savings rate of especially Chinese people, they're gonna do it. They're gonna do it. They're gonna get there. So anyway, India and China, huge, right? The other thing is, all right, this belongs in a different column, but the ultra cycle. All right, the ultra cycle. What I mean by the ultra cycle is, like, one thing I've noticed is that, well, I'm not the only person to notice this. Obviously, a lot of people notice this, but they'll come up with Apple will come up with a product like phone, and then they'll do a little rework the next year and they'll release it as a kind of a new model, but just kind of an upgrade or a successor. And then every once in a while, every 2 years or so, they'll come up with a totally different design and completely redo their physical look. And I think that's what is the big saving. That's the big seller right there, is when they redo their look, like they redid it on Apple 10 or the X, right? They redid it and it was a really, really hot seller, and I thought it was going to be a huge seller as well. And unfortunately, I didn't think about buying Apple at that time because I was stubborn. I was stupid and stubborn, and I didn't actually buy Apple because I just don't like the company, and I still don't. I mean, the brand, and I still not really a big fan, but I like the products because they're the best. They feel good and everything else. But I'm really not an Apple fanboy. I'm really not. I just buying it because it's gonna make me money, right? By the way, not financial advice. So do your own research. This doesn't constitute research, by the way. So, all right. So that's what I had to say about this point. Is the ultra cycle. So I think this year, when Apple announces in a month or so their new line of products and new phones and all that, I think that is going to be just kind of like a minor upgrade, and then the stock is probably going to do nothing, maybe even go down. Maybe there's a recession, election year, people get nervous, whatever, market sells off. Could see the 150 handle. I don't know, whatever. It could. This year or next year, I'm kind of positioned for it, and if it does, I'm ready to buy more. I have two puts sold and one call, so I mean, like, I'm ready to buy at 200, by January 17th. 200 shares. It's a lot. So I'm ready if it decides to drop because of election year or because poor sales or not enough innovation or whatever, and the phone looks exactly the same as the previous iteration. So I noticed that kind of stuff happens, and I think it might be a somewhat of a flop, but I'm just going to use that time to buy up more shares and really go for the big bang on 2020, the winter of 2020 and January 2021, to make sure I really bank in on this huge multi-year trade. So the super cycle is going for me in my favor. And the last point I'm going to say for my bullish thesis on Apple is that I saved this for a last one because it's a big one. they're just now starting to monetize their user base. All right, think about what I said for just a minute. They're now starting to monetize their user base, right? So if we look at a regular tech company, and I put Apple in there, what they usually do is they'll grow their company, right? Like, let's take a look at, for example, Facebook or Snapchat. I know it's not the same company, but just stay with me for a second. Facebook, let's say, or like Pinterest or Snapchat or Twitter or these social companies, or even other companies like Uber or um, Google, just anything, Amazon, right? They want to get into your pocket. They want to get into your lifestyle first, right? They get you to use their platform. They get you to get hooked on it, and after a while, let's take Facebook for example, right? After they've grown their user base to billions, and Apple's got 1 billion phones out there, right? And after the user base is large enough, what they start doing now is monetizing, right? Whether they sell you ads or they sell you their own services or whatever it is, they start slowly extracting money from their user base. The big thing when Apple bought like WhatsApp or whatever, or when PayPal bought Venmo, all right, people are always talking about, okay, how are they going to monetize it, right? And usually they say, oh, we're not worried about monetizing right now. It's all about the user base, etc. And we'll monetize when we're really, really big. And that's kind of like the model, of the Silicon Valley companies. And Apple is a Silicon Valley company. Like, yes, they make hardware. They just happen to have the platform that they sell apps on. They just happen to have one of the best, well-recognized brands. They just happen to have uh, 1 billion devices in people's hands. And they're just now starting to monetize. They're just now starting to sell services to these people. Yeah, they were selling like extra storage space and whatnot, and that's all good and gravy. But like, now we got credit cards. They're gonna be collecting interest on people. They're gonna, sell. They now sell music subscriptions. They'll sell in like the Apple Pluses and all of these kinds of services, health services. I mean, it's just really just starting. Like, with 1 billion devices, if they manage just to get one service on average per people, that's extra $10 billion of revenue per month. You know what I'm saying? Per month. That's so much money. And we haven't seen any of that in. And yeah, I agree, part of it is priced into the price right now, but we haven't seen any of that come in yet. And who knows where the limit is? Who knows where the limit of that monetization and how far it's going to get pushed out. Like I said, I'm not a fan of Apple, but holy crap, like, that's so much money. Um, and that's the big kahuna right there, right? That's the big point. And that's what kind of really draws me into the company. And I think it's going to be, especially with the next big wave of iPhones, and I think they're going to come up with really something really innovative in 2020 and really surprise people on the upside. I might sell half of my position after that in 2021, but I'll keep half because I think that this monetization is going to happen, is going to keep going, and with the other half of the money, I'll probably look for some other opportunity. But I just can't stay away from the company because of business, because of the money. So, I mean, there are some negatives that I thought of. For example, Apple's always late on its tech, but the thing is, even though they're late, I don't think that's necessarily negative because they get to work out through other people get to work out the bugs for them. They get to do that, qualitative assurance. What was it called? QA. When they design games and they hire a bunch of people to test their games. I think that what was the term for that? Quality something. Anyway, other companies do that for them, right? They clear all the bugs out, all the major bugs out of a new system rolling out, like 5G, for example, the biggest thing that's being talked about right now, 5G. Other companies are going to go through growing pains. They're just going to swoop in, do everything right, do everything clean, put it into their system, and it's going to work like a charm, while other companies look like chumps for doing it early and bad. Like, for example, the flip phone with Samsung. I mean, I mean, I don't know if it's a flop or not. It's very innovative and super cool looking tech. I mean, I'll tell you that. But there's so many, complaints about screens peeling off, blah, blah, blah. So, Apple, what do you think Apple's doing? They're watching, right? They're watching about this, and if it's viable, they'll do it right, and they'll release it, and they're going to take all the customers and people, they're going to, they're going to be spreading it throughout their customer base and going to be the one that are known for that little new innovation, right? Even if it's not theirs exclusively, at least for the beginning. Now, so that's not really that negative in my opinion. Um, there's another negative here, which is the competition is really strong as when it comes to technology, right? Other people are pushing forward all the time. We got Chinese people, Huawei and all that, making phones that are faster, better, stronger, got better cameras, everything's better, right? But what I'm seeing with these companies is they're kind of rushing and they're always on the cutting edge of technology, which is all great and groovy, and they should be rewarded for that. But what I'm seeing is like, and people can disagree with me here, but the design is lacking, right? You need really good design if you're going to be the staple. I mean, Aston Martin has great design on their vehicles. Maybe not the interior of the very new ones, but on the outside they look extraordinary, right? I mean, those cars are just beasts. Like I love them. All right, but design is everything for the Aston Martin. If there was no design, what are they good for? They're not the fastest car out there. They're not the quickest accelerating car. They're not the best on the track. You can get a Formula One car to do that. They're really not excelling in anything else but design, and that's the same way I feel for Apple. Is this is where their strong point is, and all these cookie cutter technology companies that are pushing innovation forward are they just don't have that aspect. So I think that they're always going to be chasing, the reward that isn't really going to come there unless they come to terms with that, with the fact that they have to design their shit well, right? So that's my answer to that. And another negative for Apple that I can think of is that they seem to be less innovative, right? I mean, they had some big innovations with their gadgets, but now it's just kind of slowing down, even though the company's getting bigger and they have even more people on staff. It just feels to me like they're a little bit afraid to take risks with their innovation, but I'm super willing to give them another year or two to figure that out and see. And I'm thinking 2020, this September, December, whatever. Um, they're gonna have a really big innovation, especially when they're phone devices. So I'm thinking, I don't know exactly what it's gonna be, but could be some, transparent 8 time folding spaceship, phone that's lighter than air and, fits into your eyeball or something. I don't know. But I think it's going to be something super cool, and people are just going to be flocking to it and paying thousands and thousands of dollars to have it. And they can charge thousands of dollars for their super awesome devices because people are willing to pay them um, because the status and everything, right? And then the last negative that I thought of here is that they're going to be experiencing some growing pains because they're going into a new industry like the services industries and especially the credit industry. Even though they have Goldman Sachs is kind of new to this too. Goldman Sachs doesn't have a credit card before, neither does Apple, right? They're going into some finance stuff that is going to be new to them, and they're going to be experiencing some growing pains, even though they've been studying other companies and seeing their flaws and what they do right and what they do wrong. And they're already running into growing pains, right? They're struggling to produce enough Apple physical cards right now for people because of the demand. So they are going to have these growing pains. But the thing is, like, these growing pains are temporary. Growing pains will come to pass, just like in real life in people. So eventually they'll go get over them, and they'll be brilliant. All right, I'm sure that they'll smoothen out the kinks. They have a lot of smart people on this, and they'll hire the right people to do it all well for them and have a nice smooth transition into expanding their business. And really, like, I think I'm gonna say it now. I mean, I think this company can double in value in 3 to 4 years. I think we can be seeing the 400 mark. I really want them to get to 500. Maybe in 5 years. But that's my prediction right there. Even through recessions and whatnot. Okay, even if it happens, I'm thinking that's where it's gonna end up. So I'm kind of a huge bull at the moment. I'm just looking at the dollar bills. I'm just trying to be in touch with reality here. Like like I said, I'm not a fanboy or anything like that. Okay, this video has gone for way too long. It's easily the longest video I've ever done. Hopefully that add some perspective to y'all and you enjoyed it or something like that. You know, I'm just pouring out my thoughts. But yeah, let me know what you think. Like I'm really curious. Like always say, I'm super curious about what other people out here on YouTube and the investment community are investing in, what they're thinking about it. So if you got some Apple stock or you got some opinion on Apple, just let me know what it is. I usually read through all the comments and I respond to most of them. So I like to converse with people about that stuff all the time. Like in my real life friends, I talk about them as well. We talk stocks, right? We talk stuff like that all the time. So I'm super interested. All right, I think that's about it. I gotta end it right here because it's like extremely long. All right, but I'll probably make another video. Not maybe not tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday. Might be all the way to Monday, but maybe I'll do some on Monday, on through the weekend. All right, it's been super real. Peace out, y'all.